Today is March 26, 2018. This is Committee on Ways and Means. And if I could ask Councilman Wagner to lead us in invocation.
Many of recent events, school tragedy, the march. I think we'll just take a couple minutes to ourselves and think about the world as we now know it and what we can look forward to in the future. So I'm going to ask for a moment of silence, please. And amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Item 2 is approval of minutes for February 26th and March 13th. Okay, so we're only going to take February 26th. We're going to defer March 13th. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 3 is bids and purchases. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 4 is Police Department approval to submit 2018 VOCA application. Councilmember Moody.
Yeah, I'd like a little bit of clarification on this particular grant. I guess this last year's budget is too fresh in my mind. How much problems we're having, and now we're starting right back down this track. We're agreeing to $110,000. We're only going to pay a fourth of it, and in a couple of years we're going to have the whole thing. So I guess my question is really more to whoever requested this grant. Is this a want or a need? I mean, I read through all the documents in our packet here, and it had a great thing of how we were going to spend the money, what we were going to do, but I still didn't see, how many of us old folks are confused all the time, other than by our spouses, with shopping lists and stuff like that. And I just was curious, is this a want or a need? And do we have a problem in the city that I'm not aware of?
Ms. Warden, do you know if there's anybody that can speak to the grant?
About this grant, but I don't think this is one where we have to hire them on after the grant is over, but I'll verify that. But I don't think it's one of the ones that we have to hire the person after. Do we have somebody here? Okay. Oh, she's here. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm Catrice Smalls. I am the program director for the Family Violence Unit with the City of Charleston. I didn't hear your question all the way back there.
My question is that there was a great case, whoever did this grant, about how the money was going to be spent, all these different things. What my question was, is there a problem out there that we're facing? What's the extent of that problem? Is this something we would like to have, or is this something we really need? Is this a need or a want?
Okay, are you talking in reference to the employees or just the supply and training?
I didn't hear that. What?
Are you referencing the employees, the personnel, or are you referencing supplies and training?
Well, I'm addressing
I think mostly the need as to the elderly issues.
I mean, how many cases do we have every year of this? What's the magnitude of the problem that's causing us to ask for this money?
Okay, with the elder population, we've had 1,153 cases total. With the elderly population, that population is rising. We are really working within the community and working with our community partners, trying to find a solution in regards to assisting the elderly. But that population is our most difficult to provide resources to. And the resource coordinator and the victim advocate, they are working in collaboration with community partners to facilitate or try to find resources for that population.
So, yes, sir.
Generally, most of these applications are need-based.
Right,
They won't even be funded by the, funded if they're not need-based.
right.
We have to make an assumption that when we do submit an application, as a part of the application process, we have to show the need for it. Otherwise, they're not even going to entertain funding it.
Right.
So it might be an unfair question, because I think the basis of most, if not all, applications are based upon need.
Yeah, I guess I didn't understand the need.
Apparently, we got it.
So, if I may make a testimony, Councilmember Moody, and you've heard that there are over 1,000 cases a year, I just want to share a brief story. And this was back when I was a citizen, not a mayor, almost 15 years ago now. My former neighbor, who was elderly and without local family or children, she never had any children. I moved away, but I stayed in touch with her, and over a few years' time, it was clear she was having some issues, and in fact, she developed dementia or Alzheimer's disease. But before that was realized, she was taken advantage of in a scam. And I found out about it when her phone finally got cut off, because she wasn't able to pay her bills, and her bank account had been robbed and all this stuff. And it was the elder advocate of the Charleston Police Department that put me on the path to get help for my former neighbor. Today, I still remain her conservator. But they really do a remarkable job. And if there are 1,000 cases a year in this city where they're stepping forward to advocate for some senior citizen that's being taken advantage or needs some assistance, I would say it's a need rather than a want.
Right.
So these people are, right now, the police officers are mostly taking care of these, and they're kind of, that's what we're doing with it now?
No, sir.
We just need another,
We
need another advocate, that's what,
No, this is a continuation.
okay,
Grant. We already have
I
that
got you.
person in place.
all right. But you also said, did you say that, Amy, that this was not a requirement down the road?
I can double check that, but I don't think so. I think it's just something we apply for continuously.
Continuously.
So that the grant actually pays for the advocate, and we're just paying the match for that. So it'll be the salaries, benefits, and the supplies. So it's really $27,000 for a whole person.
My last question
Sure.
to you, Amy. Are we keeping, because I don't think we had that information. Do you maintain some kind of reserve out there in our finances so that we know each year as we're preparing the budget that we've got this wave coming down the road?
We do.
That you can,
We keep track of it, and when all of these grants come forward, like if we were to have to keep that person on staff so that we know going forward when that will hit the budget, which year it's going to hit, so that we can prepare for
thank
that.
you. All
You're
right,
welcome.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ma'am.
Councilwoman Jackson? Do you have a question?
Oh, no, it's been answered.
Yeah, okay. Any further discussion? Do we have a motion already?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 5 is Office of Cultural Affairs, approval to apply a $6,000 grant.
Move for approval.
Any discussion? Hearing none, okay, you good? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 6 is Parks and Capital Projects. Approve the CPD Forensic Lab Professional Services Contract Fee, Amendment Number 1 with Stubbs and Muldrow Herron. Is there a motion?
A second.
Any discussion? Councilor Shearley?
I guess the question here is, we've got these extra expenses, but we're saying this is not going to go beyond the budget?
That was my same question. Is there somebody from Capital Projects that can answer that? Edmund, or are you a project manager, or Jason? Who might be able to answer that for us? Specific to the change in the scope of work and how it stays within budget.
Well,
We were under budget a little with this project, so we added some money with the new installment revenue bond that we had to cover the additional costs. So it's not additional per se. Does that make sense?
Well,
Councilman Waring?
let me follow up. We on item 6, right?
six.
Yeah, 6. I mean, I don't understand how you can go from 11,000 square feet to 22,000 square feet and stay within budget.
We didn't stay with it. We didn't have the full budgeted amount for that project to go up to the 22,000 square feet. So when we did the installment purchase revenue bond, that covered the shortage that we had, the shortfall that we had to go up to the 21,000?
22 in here.
22,000 square feet.
So it was always 22,000 square
It
feet?
wasn't, but they did a study, and Edmund can probably speak to that more, for the needs of the police department.
Right.
And that's why it went higher, because otherwise it would have been obsolete by the time we finished building the lab.
So this is still the site next to the fire department on Beast Ferry Road, so the site's still big enough and all of that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, okay, good deal. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Edmund, let me ask, if I could, one question specific to the fee itself. So we're basically going from 11 to 22,000 square feet, and the fee on the architecture is basically doubling. So I get that we're basically doubling the square footage, but shouldn't there be some, sort of base value of the professional services already established? You wouldn't think it'd be a one-to-one increase, and when you do it as a percentage of the overall project, it does seem fairly excessive from a fee standpoint. Is there something that they're doing?
Yes, we actually put additional scope in there. So previously, we did not have the IT pathways as part of this design contract, and we have so many capital projects going on right now. I think we have 7, 8 buildings, when historically we only have 1 or 2 a year. We're overwhelming the IT department right now, so we're having to look for IT consultants to help with putting those designs in the buildings right now.
Okay.
So there was an additional fee for that. There was not an additional fee for the landscape architecture, for the civil engineering, or the site work portion of this. There was also some additional testing required in this as well. It's all broken down in that fee amendment there, actually.
Right. Yeah, I went through it, and I guess really I didn't quite understand what some of those items were. I saw them broken out, and one was like a low voltage
That's
component.
that one I'm talking about, yes.
That's the IT component?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 7 is capital projects, approval for 2018 tennis and
Approval.
basketball court
Second.
resurfacing. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Item 8, capital projects, approval of
Move for
construction
approval.
contract for Daniel Island for 500 feet of linear shoreline. I heard. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 9 is public services, approval of change order number 1, amount of $36,834 for Peach Blossom Lane, Triad Engineering. Councilman Moody? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 10, public service approval of JMT, prepare plans and assist with additional design development for service $50,000 for low battery. Is there a motion? Discussion. Councilman Moody.
Yeah, that particular item, I really got 2 questions about here. Ms. Warden, can you tell us where that $50,000 is being paid from?
It's out of the project budget, the current project budget for the seawall.
What's funding that?
Hospitality, well, it's a municipal and hospitality
So it's
together.
being paid out of those hospitality
That's
funds?
right.
Great. At what point are we going to get some of the plans, we've seen some plans out there that, 100 million, 50 million, all this kind of stuff. When are we going to get to look at this, or is that what you're doing here? Or is this something completely different? I don't know you're not
That I
doing.
can't answer.
Capital Projects is doing.
Well, that's actually, I don't know, Jacob, Jacob, can you take that?
Councilman Seekins, did you want to weigh in?
I can. I mean, yeah, that's what we're approving tonight is part and parcel of the whole design process, so JMT can get going forward and get us some plans so we can show them to, among others, this council, which I know everyone's asked for. We're desperate to get, so that's exactly what this is all about.
That's what we're doing
Is
here.
putting that design together and getting it complete so we
Okay.
can bring it to you in the public.
What's the schedule on that, you know?
I do. I talked to Frank Newham the other day, and the idea is to get these plans out, get them approved, get them out in the public, and put them out to bid by the end of the summer. That's sort of the schedule goal, so we can actually put this thing out there for bid by the summer.
Thank you.
Councilman Waring?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We saw 3 iterations that I can remember of what was to happen at the battery. This plan design, which one are they going to be working on? They're going to be working on 3, 2, 1? What's it going to be?
Mr. Lindsay, any idea on comments on that one?
So the earlier plans that you saw, of course, were the early conceptual designs, and JMT is in the process of doing exactly that. They're resolving it at at an engineering level, and I think it's going to be something that's a little bit of a compromise, among those. So they're developing the design as we go. That's what this contract is for.
You see, I think whatever they work on ought to be something that we approve on the front end. We were shown those 3 iterations without, it was, as I thought, was just for information. How can we go to an engineering firm, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Lindsay,
It's not
and
my problem.
Mr. Mayor, and give them instructions on what to work on specifically?
Because the engineering side of it is the wall, the foundation, and really what's left to be decided will be the parking and the median size and what I would call the window dressing to, on top of what the engineering work is going to be.
So we're not going to be addressing the parking or expansion or not expansion, the park or anything with this?
But the work that JMT is doing is almost at this point, regardless of what we decide goes on top.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And Mayor, actually, it will drive what goes on top when we see what the engineering is necessary to build up the seawall to the height and spec required, and what that all entails. Then, on the backside, on the land side, will allow us to build it in from behind.
I think I have the floor, Mr. Chairman. I think I have the floor. Thank you. As we move forward into engineering, and I believe that's a question, obviously we're not going to answer it today, but I'll certainly put it on the agenda for next week's, the next meeting. Whatever engineering we do ought to include restrooms at the battery. Now, my understanding is that going to be part of the engineering? Because water and sewer lines is part of that infrastructure that's below the surface. If we are not going to be, and that question needs to be placed before this council to vote up or down. Do we design this with restrooms in mind? Because actually, depending on how high that wall goes, that could possibly provide an answer for restrooms. So I don't want to start spending taxpayers' dollars on an engineering design that does not include restrooms at the battery. That question needs to be answered up or down one way and not get too far down the road, and then we spending $50 million without a restroom for people to use.
And I don't disagree. As a matter of fact, we're exploring a different location for some restrooms. To put a bathroom right on the wall itself is probably not a practical thing for us to do, but there's another location we're exploring with property owner right now. They're thinking about calling it the John. They might, name it after me.
Well,
Get a building named after you.
that's nice. That's nice levity and all of that. But the fact is, engineers, people go to school for design and things like this.
Right.
There may be a way that, depending on how high the low battery wall has to go to hopefully prevent the water from coming over, et cetera, depending on the level of storm, of course, that restrooms could be placed under the wall. So, and if an engineer is given that instruction, they'll seek that out. If they're not given that instructions, they won't. So that's my point. Now, I don't want to spend money in a wasteful manner, because down the road, when we go out to bid this project, if we come back with something we didn't even ask for restrooms, shame on us.
Jackson?
Yeah, I just was wanting for the record, what's the total budget of this design effort by JMT? So we're doing another 50,000.
I'm not sure. Edmund? Jason, do y'all know what JMT's total budget is?
It's not Edmund. Yeah, that'd be Frank, it's not Edmund. You're talking about just JMT?
Yeah, I mean, we're saying additional services
I don't know.
being paid to this company. Approximately.
Maybe
Okay.
around 250,000, but we can make sure,
Okay.
and let you
Okay.
know for sure. Is it more than that? I don't know, yeah. We'll find out and let you know.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 11 is public service approval of B&C Land Development to install check valves at Bufane Street for $83,000. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 12 is public service.
Approval.
This is for check valves for $212,000 as well for Morris Drive and DOT right-of-way.
Second.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mayor?
So both number 11 and 12 are for additional check valves.
Yeah, great.
And I just want to thank Frank Newham and his initiative and work on this matter, because what he's been empowered to do and what he's been doing is looking at every single solitary drainage outfall around the city and testing each one to see if installing a check valve would hinder tidal flooding from occurring. And in fact, he's going, as he's been doing this, he's been getting good results that yes, it will make a difference. And then we asked Charleston Water Service, thanks to them also, for agreeing to fund 50% of this, because what happens, because our systems are kind of old and interconnected in ways, when that tidal water comes in to the city in various storm drains, that it bleeds into the sewer system as well. And so Charleston Water System has been treating tidal water unnecessarily because of this water getting into our drainage system and hence into their sewer system. And so anyway, I just want to commend Frank for his work. And we've already seen that these check valves can make a difference. It is some money, but it's really dollars well spent.
Councilor Mitchell?
Yes, and I think this played big with the residents on the east side too, with the Aiken Street. Even it might help with the Drake Street drainage and those areas in there, because you know they flood this flooding when there's high tide. This flooding, I mean, you can't even get in. A lot of people on Aiken Street, around 9th Street, can't even get into the church because it's so flooded in the area. So I believe if the check valve's there and you can cut it off from coming in, that would kind of help them a little bit in that particular area. Even on Morrison Drive, the same thing. So I'm glad to see that this is there, and it might be able to help the constituents in that area.
Yes, sir.
Residents there, because they've been waiting a long time. I mean, for something to happen until we get the drainage work on it, and I hope we start on that pretty soon.
Yes, sir.
Could I just
Councilor
ask
Jackson.
another bigger picture question? Is the fact that CWS has offered to reimburse the city 50% for this cost, is that going to continue, or are we getting a bonus from the water system? The pattern that we're creating?
For additional
I
installation?
think it's a case-by-case request.
So if it benefits their,
It benefits their system as well.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can I just briefly respond, because Frank's not here, Laura, to Councilmember Mitchell, specifically related to Drake Street. There is a huge outflow from Drake Street that goes out underneath the Port Authority properties. It's one of the biggest outflows in the city, and they're actually in the process of putting in a test valve in there to see if it works, and that is definitely on the list, because Drake Street is the worst in the entire city, by far. And we've been beating up on the county to get them over there to repave it as well, but we thought, let's get a check valve in there first and get it repaved. So that is it's like the next one on the list, but it's the biggest outflow probably on the peninsula. You can walk through it. It's massive.
We need to go to the Postal Service too.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
The Postal Service next them for help too, because they're there too.
All right, any further discussion?
Will it affect South Street?
Yeah.
That's the street.
Yeah.
Drake, south, what comes back behind it, that whole area is bad.
All right. Any more? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 13, Housing Community Development, approval of the Opportunity Zone application submitted to South Carolina Department of Commerce.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Mayor?
I did want to share that the governor did in fact approve part of our submittal as in his recommendation. I think it now has to be approved by the Department of Treasury, but about half of the area that we applied for did get recommended by the governor. And so to the extent this program is going to bring investment, we're going to be included.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 14, Executive Resiliency Emergency Management Division, acceptance of the Mayor's Challenge Grant in the amount of $100,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? Councilman Moody.
We got a separate sheet, and I guess this was, I didn't understand exactly what all this was about. So what's the total cost of this project? And I don't know whether Mark is here or not, but is the total cost going to be the $100,000 and we're getting 96 from, or what's the total cost?
Total cost is $96,821. We
Okay.
actually had to submit a budget, and we have to work to that budget. We can't go over it.
So they will fund the whole thing?
They're funding the whole thing. There's no match, nothing.
Because that's what it said. I was a little bit unclear. It says no city match. But
There is no city match.
I didn't know what the total cost was. Total cost of that. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Mayor?
So I just want to thank Mr. Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg. He's incredibly generous when it comes to helping cities think about good solutions and going forward. And this doesn't include incidentals that they help pay, like Mark and three other staff members just went for a session in New York to meet with Bloomberg. Of course, Bloomberg paid for y'all to fly up there and stay up there. I mean, they're just amazingly generous, and so my hat's off and my thanks to Michael Bloomberg. He's terrific.
I'm sure he'll be watching. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Item 15 is Committee on Real Estate. Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee on Real Estate met on Friday, and we're still dealing with this acquisition of the Archer School, and the agreement that was put on your desk is kind of where we are. Just a couple things at our meeting. There's nothing for us to vote on tonight, but we had asked the school district to extend our due diligence period to 120 days. We thought we need a little bit more. Several places in here it referred to time is of the essence, and we did not see that time was of the essence to us, and we asked that that be removed. And probably a lot of the discussion, if you look at page 5, paragraph 8A, other agreements, it deals with Stony Field and how that's going to be worked into this. And basically what we asked was that, and I'll just read this as kind of the wording that we put together, that paragraph 8A of the agreement is to be amended to provide that following execution of the agreement, during the due diligence period, the city and school district will meet to determine and agree on the scope of the work for Stony Field renovations and how the renovation project will be managed and paid for. The renovation of Stony Field will not be contingent on the closing of Archer School. We're trying to separate and not make them contingent. If we can do, we had a lot of questions about Archer School, affordable housing, how that's going to go forward, and we're still working on that, but we didn't see that the Stony Field ought to be tied to it. So we need to move on. We need to move on with that. I think that was that kind of what, and we've asked the staff to go back to the school district and try to put all that together. So we don't have a vote tonight.
Mr. Mayor?
Chairman and Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I thought that with the changes proposed that you just outlined, that we were in fact going to approve this tonight because staff has taken those proposed changes to the school board and they are voting on the same changes.
Same thing? Okay, well, that was our, maybe I misunderstood that.
That's the way I thought we remembered it. Maybe Ms. Carducci would like to give us a report on what happened since Friday.
Correct. So I contacted the school district, let them know of the amended, or the motion that was approved by the real estate committee, and told them that we were taking out the, this time is of the essence and adding in the changes regarding the Stoney agreement. So they were bringing that to their board this afternoon at their meeting as well. So they know what our changes were, and I told them we were coming forward to request approval of our changes tonight.
Okay, all right, well, I make that as a motion so that we can start the due diligence if they agree.
We're all on the same
I'll
page.
second.
Then we're all on the same thing.
I
Right.
second.
Okay.
Councilman Gregory?
The school board had a specific dollar amount for Stonyfield. Am I correct? Wasn't there 2.7 million or something that was supposed to go towards Stonyfield?
2.27
2.27.
million.
That's held harmless in this transaction,
That plus the additional million.
plus the additional million.
2.27 plus they were going to put in an additional million and plus an additional $975,000.
Okay, all right. For Stonyfield specifically.
Correct.
Which will have nothing to do with this transaction necessarily, except this. All right? Okay, all right, I'm clear now. Thank you.
Councilman Waring?
That's not the explanation now. It is not 4.25 million coming from the school district for Stonyfield. So I think what we're talking about, I think we got a contract that we can go forward with, okay? But I think the amendments need more clarification for the remainder of council. The contract that I think most of us had on the desk had the 2.274 million being, I guess, contingent, lack of a better term. What the committee did, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we separated that. In other words, there are two separate transactions. Archer School certainly will be a challenge, but potentially could work with some alternatives, okay, that we don't need to hopefully discuss here. But so we wanted to look at Archer School based on its merits, whether it's being cost-effective, affordable housing, alternative uses, etc. Stonyfield should not be tied to that. Stonyfield is a separate entity transaction by itself. So that's why we removed it. It was kind of clouding the issue. The second thing was time being of the essence. For the city to do proper due diligence, the 120 days hopefully is in there to find out some of the alternatives, uses that we would like it for. And by the same token, we've got some other funding sources, LDC being one, that would be part of this transaction potentially also. So time being of the essence really wasn't in the city's best interest. But as far as everybody moving in the right direction, trying to make this thing work, we needed more background information on what certain things would cost, and we needed more time for that. So that's why the two transactions were separate.
Yeah, the LDC was going to make a grant to the city of 3.9 million for affordable housing. That's where we were going to get the money to pay, that's part of this agreement here, the 2.2. And that, it just so happens, the school district owes us that amount of money, so there was going to be an offset on that transaction, so we had to put the money in. But the affordable housing piece, the LDC will only fund that. They don't fund football stadiums. So that's why we wanted to separate these two agreements, and we want to deal with Stonyfield. The school district owes us some money. They have some responsibility there. We want to get Stonyfield fixed, but we're going to negotiate that separately.
Follow-up questions, Mayor? Okay, because I don't like flying blindly. What would Archer cost us? 40, 50, 60 million?
We don't know.
Have any idea?
Well, that's part of our due diligence. We've got to figure out what the mitigation is for earthquake, asbestos maybe, whether or not we can tear it down, maybe just keep the facade. That's why we were not willing to go forward with, if we can walk, if all those answers don't come in our due diligence, we will walk away from that contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But that doesn't, we didn't want to walk away from Stony
I'm
Field
with
too.
you. Okay, we're in the same place.
Councilman Shade?
I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I thought I was, but now I'm a little concerned. Are we eliminating paragraph 8 of this agreement?
We're amending it to
Amending
include
it.
that,
Amending.
that
So
wording.
paragraph 8, the other agreements is coming out.
I'm sorry?
Paragraph 8 of the agreement, is that being
Right, that's the,
eliminated?
yeah.
It's being amended.
Being amended, okay. Thank you. Just want to make sure it was clear.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you have further discussion?
No, I'm good.
Councilor Lewis?
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad that y'all put that due diligence period in there, because Archer School, ain't no telling what's in that bullet. I went to school there in the first grade.
I'm surprised it's still standing.
But I'm thinking about any time frame on when we could look at getting something done with Stony Field. We've been talking about Stony Field
That's on our,
since I've been sitting in
it's
this
on
seat.
our recreation agenda.
Recreation agenda, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. If there's no more business coming before this committee, we will...
But, Mr. Chairman, I hate to go back with housekeeping. Maybe we should have passed that as amended.
Say that
Was
one
the
more time.
motion to approve it as amended, the contract?
I think that was the, was that your expectation?
Yes.
Okay.
I read that amendment into the record.
Okay.
As amended and,
Yeah.
okay. All right, any further business? If not, we stand adjourned.
I know. And then they say, yes, no, Joe.
Here he comes.
Y'all good to start right up away?